So Monica is somebody that has been an inspiration to me for a while. We got to spend some time yesterday, and I learned that she's the founder and CEO of Java Foods. And I'm not sure if any of us went to boarding school back in Zambia, but noodles, which is the product her company makes, are illegal. So I spent 4 years at Impilimbe smuggling her product. So your professional journey is, I think, an inspiration to a lot of people here. You came to the United States and you felt the need to go back and make a difference. Could you talk more about your personal journey and what motivated you to start Java Foods?
Good morning, everybody. I'm really happy to be here. I've had an exceptional week. So I studied law and practiced law for about 20 years and lived in many different countries and jurisdictions, both in sort of private practice as well as working for a corporate. And my last role was actually in Lagos, Nigeria, where I worked for the Dangote Group for about 4.5 years. Before that, I was in DC for a bit. But moving back onto the continent and really seeing what needed to be done, right? And appreciating that it is hard, but nothing is going to change if we sit back. And one of the lessons I learned by working for Mr. Dangote was that if we expect things to change or others to make the change for you, then nothing was going to be done. And he actually constantly used to challenge us because we were a very multinational team from across the continent about every time he went to countries. So when we went to Zambia, he always used to ask me the question about why many of the companies had foreign MDs, managing directors. So he was very curious why there weren't Zambian insurance companies or Zambian banks. And this is 2004. We have 24 banks, of only which 2 are Zambian banks, right? So you really have to ask yourself the question, when is it going to happen if all of us are sitting somewhere else and not creating the country we want to be proud of? So it kind of challenged me. I had a very, very comfortable job. It was a lot of work. And I then realized very quickly that it wasn't what I wanted to do in the long term, and went home and had no idea what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to be home and really make an impact. And one thing I wanted to do was create a brand which we were proud of. And I feel like I'm like a record. So if you people have heard my TED Talk, I've spoken about this. About really, I got home and saw a lot of South African brands which are doing well, like MTN. And I was like, so where's the Zambian brand? Apart from Zambian breweries, right? So where are the Zambian brands? I mean, you look at Airtel is Indian, MTN is South African, all the big food brands. And I was like, but why can't we make this brand? And even as I sit in this room, a lot of you have such great experience in building brands, profile. And I was like, well, hey, we can do this, right? No one has, in Nigeria, they say no one has 2 heads. So no one was smarter, I was going to learn it. So I decided to enter the food processing sector, use what we had, and to see if we create a brand which people will be proud of. And we really stumbled across the instant noodle brand purely by accident, by seeing a space in the market, because we saw that kids were looking for something to eat which was convenient and quick, didn't have a lot of money. We had a lot of people moving into the city and not knowing what to do, right? And all the brands on the shelf were all imported brands, right? And I was like, guys, we grow wheat here. We grow a lot of wheat. It's one of the crops which grows really well in Zambia. And we only use wheat for bread. So all my raw material for Easy Noodles is actually local, and it's actually such a good crop, I've got to say that. So we lost a lot of money in the first 4 years, for those who may have seen it in the early days, because no one would eat it. And everyone was like, what is this? It's a biscuit, but I can tell you Zambians are highly socialized. Zambia has been much easier an entrance for us as Java, as opposed to Malawi, or Tanzania, which is highly fragmented, a lot of people, but Zambians, you catch on to things very quickly. And by 2015, after we lost a lot of money, we couldn't do it fast enough, right? And now we are the leading brand. I mean, in my first year, we begged to sell 100,000 packs, like, oh, we sold 100,000. That's fantastic. Now we sell 3 to 4 million packs a month, right? So Someone eats them. You were eating them. And so I wanted to hug Josh because sometimes you forget because you're like, oh, people actually eat it. And so we're very proud. And what's really significant, I've got to say this, guys, there are a lot of companies in Zambia, they're run by people who don't look like us, right? So you can walk in, people walk into Java and they'll say, we want to see the manager. And they're like, oh, there she is. And like, no, the manager. Still, to this day, because there are not enough of us running business, we have to change the status quo in our country, that we have to run it, right? So I think it's a challenge, and that's why I'm here, to challenge all of you. He'll ask the question, right?
Yeah, speaking of challenges, like starting any business, we're not sure what the outcome is going to be, but you took the bold step to go in there and be a key player in the food manufacturing industry in Zambia. So could you talk more about, what any challenges that came your way, or that could be being a woman in business or dealing with government regulation. I think a lot of us here could benefit in case we're curious to start our own businesses.
Yeah, so deep breaths, because definitely the challenges are many, right? And it is imperfect, as we know, in every sector. And challenges, for instance, I think even having a 20-year career path, having done very well, people actually doubting your capacity. So I couldn't get a loan for the business for the first few years because everyone assumed I had no idea what I was going to do and I was too high risk, right? Despite the fact that I had worked for many years, right? So we funded the business purely on my savings or, help of family and friends. So being taken seriously as a Zambian woman in a very, very male, foreign-dominated sector. I mean, just you've got, the Nestle's of this world, really big companies. And even to get on some of the supermarket shelves, the high sort of profile where, to get on that shelf, it gives you a sense of credibility. The buyers just would not let us go. They just said, well, because we know your types, you'll give us product this week, and then next week you won't give us product, right? And so we really had to do a lot in order to stay on shelf, which meant even sending one box of noodles to Mansa, which meant the transportation cost was more than the actual box. But we had to do that in order to ensure that we changed the narrative that Zambian brands can actually deliver. So from 2012 to 2024, you now appreciate a lot more Zambian brands on shelf because we now deliver much more. It just takes someone to break the door and open it, right? So another big thing for us is skill. I think we should now be able to leverage this kind of platform using a lot of the skills here in this room to grow skill at home. I mean, we have a really big skills deficit from curriculum, from access to, the right tools, shifting the mindset of how our people think. And that has been a big, big issue. Because of my background and the environment in which I worked, I was very much almost really hard. I really pushed people. And then realized I was getting no result because I was not speaking to my team the right way or in a way to get the results. So I had to learn to take a step back to hear what they were saying and explain it in a way to get people to work. And that's hard. Hard when you're used to, and then you have to find a way around it to get, and I have employees at the basic level, from general workers. I run a factory, right? And then I have very, very highly skilled people. And how you navigate the teams and build the culture has been, for me, a really big learning. So it's been a challenge, but I must say this, it's been highly fulfilling. I look at all of you and I think it'd be so nice to live in the US for many different reasons, right? But there's so much work to be done at home, despite the challenges. And it's highly fulfilling when someone says, as you said, I used to eat your product. I mean, it's highly fulfilling.
Yeah, that's really good. And, you talked about harnessing the skills. A lot of us, have come here, gotten the knowledge, the education. You, over the course of your career, have worn many hats. I guess advice to younger people today, what mindsets and skills are essential to, become professionally successful, and how can we use that, to benefit our home, our background, and our culture?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question, and really congratulations to ZLA to bring the youth here today, to allow them to understand what's going on and the possibilities. I think, first of all, we have to be open-minded. We have to acknowledge that we are Zambian Americans, but we are Zambian, right? And we want better for where we come from. Even if we don't fundamentally live there, Zambia is you, even though you might not be there, right? So we have to see how we can uplift and change our community. And maybe your children will go home, but what do you want them to go home to? Where do you want them to be comfortable? And so my challenge to the youth actually is be a little bit more involved. Let's use the networks that we have so we expose you to some of the issues. There are many issues at home, and see how we can harness your skills and your networks here to build capacity. And previously we talked about someone who's doing in education, people who had schools. Now with online learning, right? And things that you perhaps think you discard in the US, trust me, in Zambia, the capacity is not there. How can we support in simple things? In my sector, the simplest things is food safety. If you guys heard a few weeks ago, we had a big aflatoxin issue in mealie meal. And mealie meal is our staple, and it's purely a food safety issue, right? There's nothing new under the sun. What can we leverage from you as youth, what you're learning today, to solve some of the more basic problems that we have in Zambia? And you all have a role to play. You'll be surprised, Josh. Josh actually works in lobbying, and I was like, you could bring some sanity to how the whole political system, if you wish, right? It's done. How campaign financing, how to run a clean campaign. Because you can imagine in Zambia today, what we're seeing is fewer women in politics because the game is so rough and abrasive. But if we brought some sanity and some rules that people could all play by, which you know, Josh, you could change something all in your small way. And I think that's why I'm here, really, I think we had a long discussion with Frida, like, so what's the point of me coming? I'm not selling noodles or products, and I didn't bring any product, actually, but I came here with a message, and I really hope that you'll be able to say it to, and I'm so proud of all the Zambians. I'm really, really proud, because when I was here, I wasn't part of a network. Maybe I didn't know about it, but all of you have done exceptionally well. How can we change things at home, if not for you, for your children and your children's children, because we're Zambians first, right?
I guess, looking forward and your vision, whether that's at Java or as a business leader, how do you see the business landscape evolving in Zambia over the next few years? And how are you getting ready for it? How can others be prepared to tackle business in Zambia? And any last words of advice you have for the crowd?
So, great question as well, but actually we don't no longer talk about one market, right? We don't talk about Zambia on its own. And actually 2 days ago, I went and met a lady who's from Guadeloupe who's here, and she runs something called eComs, and she's actually bringing products from a lot of African manufacturers and bringing them to sell not only to African consumers, but also American consumers. And it's just the penny dropped, right? Because I know so many people in Zambia who are doing great things about marula creams, hair products, but don't know there's a bigger market. Right? So I'm excited because the world is changing, right? Before, we just used to think, I just want to get into ShopRite. And now who cares about ShopRite when I have a very large Zambian community, a very large Southern African community, a large African community all around the world, which now through e-commerce has given me a larger market, right? So I think the opportunity, if I can encourage those who are interested, even the ladies who are running their supermarket. My question to Frida was like, how do they get their product? How do you get your chimpapila? I don't know, But that means the world is changing through e-commerce, because now you can find someone from Zambia who's selling kalembula dried, and you can get it delivered to you through some form of logistics. And that's the opportunity, right? We have to see it much more than just our little corner and what else is out there. So it's all of us want to eat a Zambian meal, if I'm in DC, Wisconsin, LA, and how, right?
Thank you so much, Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Musonda, and yeah.